How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Lucid and SOFI. They were able to post up a green day since we saw a lot of strength inside of the markets. But there are some levels that I want you guys to watch, especially going into tomorrow. We also had Meta that ended up releasing their earnings, and they ended up missing on those estimates. So as far as for the overall market conditions, and if you're going to be inside of these plays, you want to have some sort of a strategy. We'll talk about that in the video. We're going to be going over the charts. We're going to be taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and as well as the short interest information. And just to let you know, if you're new to this channel, we have timestamps down below inside the description. I will also be giving you guys a final recap in the end, and of course give you the update as far as some recent news that came out for Lucid in the after hours. So let's get into it right now. So we're going to take a look at the chart for Lucid. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $18.43, being up 1.88%. On the low, it tested $17.87, and then on the high, testing $18.60. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 15.079 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 13.547 million shares. So we actually had above average volume on the day, and we also seen some strength in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, here's what we want to pay attention to. Even though it did pull off a green day, we are still trading below our major moving averages at the 9 EMA, the 21 EMA, and as well as the 50 EMA. But the real question is, since we did test a low at 1787, will this area hold going into tomorrow if we decide to test it again? If we can't hold it, then we can come back down, and I said that we have to fill in that gap. So please add that to your notes if you haven't done so already. And if we did break through this level, then the next area to keep an eye on is around 1638, which is right here at the bottom of the range. If you want to see some strength inside of the play, it did see a high of 1860, but you'd want to see it get to at least the 21 EMA, which is at $19.16. So $19 is a key level to watch. The moment it could use the 50 EMA as an area of support, which is right around 19.25, then things can start looking good for Lucid. And then you'd want to see if it could start gaining some momentum and getting above 19.50 to see if it can make a move to $20. But do keep an eye on the overall market conditions, because I do believe if we have another sell-off for this week, whether it comes on Thursday or if it comes on Friday, it will pull back and we could see it potentially testing here at the low $17 range. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Lucid. So scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at the recent filings here for the 27th, we have iShares ESG MSCI USA ETF that purchased 860,842 shares. We also have iShares ESGS Advanced MSCI that purchased 15,194 shares. We have a Senegon Asset Management that purchased 34,081 shares. Main Street Financial Solutions that purchased 27,787 shares. And we see a short position from Boston Partners of 97,972 shares. And IFS Advisors LLC with 8 shares. They have to file that. And then we have Boston Partners Global Long Short Fund Institutional Class with their short position of 25,559 shares. So now when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 63.38%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 2.61 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 550,000, updated 15 minutes ago, and then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 12.80%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 25th, it was at 56.01, and then for the close of the 26th being at 63.38. So we see an increase right there. And then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 21.79%, Lucid does continue to have short squeeze potential. So we're going to take a look at the chart for SOFI. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $6.44, being up 4.89%. On the low, it tested $6.19, and then on the high, testing $6.47. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 17.287 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 19.232 million shares. So we had below average volume on the day, but we saw some strength in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the daily chart, here's some key things we want to pay attention to. Since SOFI did have a strong day, we got to a low of $6.19, and you can see that we formed a higher low from the previous day. And we also had a high at 647, which was higher than the high from yesterday as well. So going into tomorrow, can SOFI get here to the 50 EMA, which is at $6.52? We need a close there. That would be the best case scenario. Use that as an area of support going into Friday. But if it's unable to do that, as long as it can stay above the 9 EMA, which is at 643, and it closed at 644, that would be a good look as well, because it would still give us a higher low. And then going into Friday, then we want to see what it would do, because we want price action above $6.70. If we can get price action above $6.70, then we could see if it can make that test going to $7. If it decides to have a pullback, of course we want to see support from the previous day holding up. But if it doesn't, that's where we could see SOFI testing right here at $6. So please add that to your notes. And if it breaks below $6, we could see some further weakness, and then you want to see support holding up here right around 576. Let's move on. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for SOFI. Scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at the recent filings, we have V Wealth Advisors LLC that purchased 33,779 shares, and then we see QCM Cayman Limited with a closed position as well, and that's all we have for the 27th. Now, when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 48.47%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 3.50 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 18 minutes ago, and then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 1.60%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 25th, it was at 39.73, and then for the close of the 26th being at 48.47. So that is a significant increase right there. And then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 19.01%, SOFI does continue to have short squeeze potential. So to give you guys my final recap for Lucid and as well as for SOFI, let's start off with Lucid. So the recent news that came out inside of the after hours is that they're going to be putting a stoppage on delivering their Lucid Air EVs to customers. And of course, this has investors nervous. Will the stock continue to pull back? That's something we're going to have to watch. If you remember what I said inside of the charts, the key levels are very important to know. We know there's a gap that needs to be filled to the downside, and as far as for price movement to the upside, you want to see this play getting back to $19. If it can't do that, you're going to continue to see some weakness. But in my personal opinion, I could see it trading in the low $17 range as far as for this week, especially since the news came out in the after hours. We want to see what it's going to do regular trading hours when there's more volume inside of the markets. And another thing to take into consideration, this play does continue to have short squeeze potential, but again, with this environment that we are in, it needs a lot of buying pressure for that to actually happen. And then as far as for SOFI, we ended up seeing a low at $6.19. Yes, it did finish green on the day, but you want to see a close at least above $6.52. If you could have support there, then that would be a really good look, or just close above that level. And then what you'd want to see is it making that move to $6.70, and then you want to see if it can make that break going to $7. I think I said this in my previous video, that is a lot to ask from this play, especially since we did have a strong day in the market overall. I was expecting for it to actually pick up the pace some more, but since it didn't, if we have a pullback inside of the markets, it will pull back to those levels when it was looking bearish. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. So you want to see $6 hold up if that ends up being the case, because if it doesn't, then you could see a pullback going to around 575, and it can go down even lower. As far as for the news that we got today from Jerome Powell out of of that FOMC meeting, how they're going to be sticking with 75 basis points. This is exactly what the market was expecting. And it's part of the reasons why we were able to see a strong rally today going well above 400. I would love to see a continuation of this, but there's something that's a little bit concerning. We had Meta that ended up releasing their earnings inside of the after hours, and they missed on all their estimates. And to make the situation even worse, this does not bode well overall. We've been seeing a lot of these big tech companies missing on their earnings, but we do have Apple and as well as Amazon that's going to be releasing earnings in the after hours for tomorrow. So depending on how they do, I think it's really going to guide the direction of the market. If we don't get some beats and we continue to see misses, that is going to be concerning, and I can see a pullback. But overall, in general, strong day inside of the market. Let's see how both of these plays fare out, and I'll continue to keep you guys updated. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.